What's going on YouTube? Cloverbells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be talking about the Oceania International Championships. But as a whole, we'll leave that for a video after this one. So expect 2 videos in one day. But what I really wanted to do today was really just focus on Klefki. Now, Klefki got 2nd place in the Oceania Championships, and I really wanted to dedicate one whole video to this little guy because it deserves it. Like, if you look at the top cut over here. Let's just go back to the graphic for a second. Almost like relatively standard teams, but then you look at Alberto's team, right? And you see that there's a Klefki and it went all the way to the finals. And that alone, I believe, deserves a video in itself. So other types of, tournament trends and results and, what I think could happen in the future, we'll leave that for a separate video. We always recap the tournaments, but what I wanted to do with this video is focus on Klefki, right? And even before that, if I asked you, of these 8 teams, for those who know me relatively well and have been following the channel since the beginning, if you were to ask me what is my favorite team of these 8, and what would it be? Of course, it's going to be Alberto's team. Not the fact that there's a Klefki. Look who else is on it. Okay, we've got Volcarona and Corviknight, right? And remember, Volcarona and Corviknight have always been 2 of our favorites, even since Series 1. We've always been believers of these. We put these always in the A tier, and at certain times in the meta, those were like almost quote-unquote hot takes, but not really, right? Because you know that they're good Pokemon. They can do the jobs that they've been asked to do relatively well. It's all about, like, can we deliver in the tournament setting, right? And they have been. All right, Corviknight has always been that little niche option with like Tailwind support. And then just the Flying Steel typing has been relatively strong. And you always have end games with like potential bulk ups or body press stuff. And then Volcarona even more so than the Corviknight with the Giga Drain Quiver Dance set along with a Fire type move. Because if you think back to what we did, towards the beginning of the format and back in February, we released this team. This is one of our teams for February, one of 6 teams. And it was a similar concept, right? Where we had Roaring Moon, Corviknight, and Volcarona, okay? Because I love those 3, and basically I wanted to just support those 3 with 3 consistent options, right? Being the Bundle, the Grimmsnarl, and the Amoonguss. And with the screen support from a Prankster Pokemon, the Roaring Moon and Corviknight and Volcarona become very, very hard to remove, especially even the Bundle. And then just like having Tailwind support, from something other than the Roaring Moon gives you flexibility to go for another move on Roaring Moon, and then you just have like support with the Bundle and the Amoonguss, right? And then even the Misty Terrain is always nice on this Grimmsnarl, just because so you can't like sleep things or you can't like burn my Roaring Moon, for example. So I went with that concept, and it did well. We showcased this team on ladder, and it was really, really good. Now what Alberto said was, Clover, you had a great idea, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take this concept that you had and let's turn it into a regional team, right? And with that, Alberto says, by the way, I don't actually know him, I'm just like creating conversation. Alberto says, let's use the Klefki over the Grimmsnarl. So now what we're going to do is let's get into a discussion on why Klefki could be the quote-unquote a little bit better of a choice than Grimmsnarl as far as like a Prankster support Pokemon. So let's take a look. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put Klefki side by side with Grimmsnarl, so this way we can get a little bit of a comparison and just to see where the value in Klefki lies. So we've got both of them here, and because they're both Prankster mods, they're going to have like priority dual screen. So let's put Light Skin and Reflect on Grimmsnarl over here, and then Klefki will do the same thing, which is pretty much what Alberto was doing. And then now you have to just consider, okay, if it's not the ability, then perhaps it's the stats and the typing. So just from like a stats perspective, the HP is abysmal on Klefki, whereas Grimmsnarl has like base 95, which is pretty good. But then look at the defenses: 91 defense and 87 special defense, whereas Grimmsnarl has much weaker bulk in both of those categories, right? 65 defense, 75 special defense. So Klefki's got the edge there. Okay, and then Klefki's a little bit faster, so I don't know if that's gonna be like relevant or not, but like under Tailwind settings, like if you can just go for like faster Dazzling Gleams than some of these other Pokemon, then a little bit of chip damage can go a long way, right? So then Grimmsnarl's fairy type attack is gonna be Spirit Break, of course. Now, where does the edge lie in terms of like these fairy type attacks along with the screens? So look who's taking all these hits. It's gonna be Iron Hands, of course. Then the Great Tusk, and then we'll even throw in the Roaring Moon here. So these are 3 Pokemon that are weak to, Klefki's Dazzling Gleam. And then if you consider the fact that, the Iron Hands and even the Great Tusk, they don't have the best special defense. Klefki is actually going to be doing more damage than potentially the Grimmsnarl, because like both of these have like exceptional physical defense. So you can imagine that Dazzling Gleam is going to be doing a little bit more damage. Now, granted, both of these can run the Assault Vest, and they have been running the Assault Vest. Not that it's like, the only item that they're able to run, but because they can run it, there are some cases where Grimmsnarl can actually do more damage to both of them because of the fact that, these two are prime targets for an Assault Vest. But without the vest, like Tusk, for example, can run Life Orb, can run Focus Sash because it has two moves, with Headlong Rush and Close Combat that can reduce its defenses. And because of that, they're more inclined to even run like a Focus Sash, even like an Energy Booster, for example. Because of that, you can probably imagine that Klefki can do more damage. And for that, we're going to go into the damage calculator here. So imagine this is Grimmsnarl clicking Spirit Break into a pretty standard Great Tusk, regardless of bulk. Let's just say even 252, not that it even matters, right? So 36 to 43% from the Grimmsnarl Spirit Break, whereas Klefki, on all things considered, if we just put, again, level 50, no special attack investment because you're not really going to be doing damage with this thing. Dazzling Gleam, look at this. This actually does more damage than Grimmsnarl. And, you can this almost does 50%. Okay, so if this Great Tusk is not full HP bulk, you can potentially two-shot this thing, which is actually kind of funny, all things considered. Now, granted, Great Tusk is a ground type and it can do super effective damage right back. But again, this is why you have Reflect to not only help you out there, but you can survive potentially this stuff, right? But then going forward, what else can you do? So, and then you also consider the Roaring Moon. Granted, it has much higher special defense than defense, so the Grimmsnarl is a little bit more effective in that regard. But then look at the typing here, right? Steel Fairy. Like, what is Roaring Moon actually doing to Klefki? Like, Throat Chop is not doing that much, okay, because it's a dark type move. And then even the acrobatics on this, right? This is their most common sense. Throat Chop and acrobatics. What is acrobatics doing to his steel type? Pretty much nothing. Whereas like this, acrobatics would actually deal neutral damage to the Grimmsnarl. So in that regard, okay, so Klefki's got the edge here, right? Just a little bit, right? But then, then you have to consider, well, what could this fourth move be? So the Alberto is running Thunder Wave. Not that Grimmsnarl can't run Thunder Wave either. So, in this regard, they're kind of equal in that last slot. But Klefki gets a couple other moves that Grimmsnarl does not, okay? And if you don't want to run Thunder Wave, there are some other options. Like this thing does get Sunny Day, which is funny because, if you're running like Protosynthesis Mons and you want a little bit of damage, you can run Screens and a Sunny Day set. But the problem with this is you'll also boost their own Paradox Pokemon as well, right? The opponent. This is why like Torkoal kind of struggled a little bit in Series 2. But you also get access to this other move that Grimmsnarl cannot give you, and that's Trick Room in this generation, which is really, really funny because if you got things like Iron Hands on your team, and then all of a sudden you click Trick Room and you're able to get the Iron Hands in position, now you got this Iron Hands that's driving behind Screens in Trick Room, right? Which is something that Grimmsnarl cannot do. So there's the advantage there. And I think moving forward, you'll probably see some aspect of that explored where now people are really realizing, oh, you know what? I think I can use Klefki over the Grimmsnarl. So now maybe I can try some Trick Room shenanigans just to flip, those Tailwind hyper offensive teams upside their head. And then, just go from there and just, reposition and repivot and, just deal a bunch of damage with your other options and just like really, really support them relatively well just because you have this Steel Fairy typing, which allows you to be on the field for a little bit longer. But now, also consider with the type advantage, look who Grimmsnarl also suffers against, right? You've got the Flutter Mane, and you also even have stuff like Sylveon that it can struggle with. And then also like Goldango and even like King Gambit, for example. These are all like steel types that Grimmsnarl can struggle against. These are other fairy types that Grimmsnarl can struggle against, especially if this thing is like choice specs. Okay, with like Moonblast, okay, and even like Dazzling Gleam, that's gonna hurt a lot. Sylveon, with Pixelate, of course, with the Throat Spray, plus one, what's that thing called? Hyper Voice. That's gonna hurt Grimmsnarl for a ton of damage, and even Goldango, like Make It Rain with Life Orb. Grimmsnarl's not living that, okay, and same thing with King Gambit, like with the Iron Head pressure on the Grimmsnarl. These are all for Pokemon that are within like the top 20, top 15 even that, it's not going to do well against. Like, if anything, you can get up maybe one screen, and then that's it. But whereas like Klefki, you know, these fairy type attacks, you know, Klefki doesn't really care for that. You just set up a light screen, you're able to resist it because you're a steel type, and you're kind of just chilling there. You know, so Floodamane is going to struggle there. And then if on the off chance you don't decide to run Thunder Wave or Trick Room, if you decide to run Flash Cannon, which would be even more funnier, right, you can just deal super effective damage right back to both of these. Now, granted, they have a little bit higher of special defense, but you can still chip them, whereas like Grimmsnarl is gonna have a little bit more of a harder time trying to do that, right? So that's the idea there. And then with Goldango and Kingambit, of course, you know, that what are you doing here? It just kind of drops. And whereas Klefki can say, you know what, I can actually live these because I am a steel type. So I'm not taking super effective damage there. You know, you can even make this Terra Fire if you want to really fully resist it. But like, it's just a better Mon in Series 2, I think, you know, in terms of like if you had to choose. So, you know, all things considered, I think more people are going to try and explore the Klefki moving forward, especially because we have like some important regionals coming up with like Knoxville and, you know, some other tournaments, you know, that are on the rise. People are definitely going to experiment this. I think more people should try and use the Trick Room variant. Like, granted, Thunder Wave is like a super good move. It's what gives you speed control, you know, against like stuff like Iron Bundle. So like if I were to just remove these, because Alberto was also running his own Iron Bundle, and then, you know, if you suffer from the mirror, okay, then just Thunder Wave the bundle and then just, you know, get the chance for para hacks, and then just have your other options outspeed everything, and then you're kind of okay, right? So I think Thunder Wave is actually maybe the best move here. Now, you don't really need Trick Room sometimes, you know, just because, you know, you have screen support, you can kind of stall out those Trick Room turns. So if you just rely on Thunder Wave and then just hide behind your screens, I think that's a little bit more optimal, and then just, you know, hope for like potential para hacks, right? So I think that's really, really nice. But anyway, let me know what you think about Klefki. And again, what we're going to do, you know, in the next video is we're going to recap that Oceania Championships, you know, to its fullest extent, and see, you know, where exactly the trends are and what we can do moving forward in some of these other upcoming regions like the Knoxville Tour that's coming up in this upcoming week. So that'll be it for now. Again, if you're interested in coaching on the channel, that's a tier 3 sub in the video description below, and also in the comments section. Every video has a join button, so, you know, if you want to click that, that's also appreciated. You know, again, we'll do a team building session one-on-one where we hash out EV spreads. I show you how to build a team. I show you how to make it optimal. So if you're trying to enter some of these tours and you need something just to try and, you know, potentially do well in it, especially if it's your first time, definitely consider getting coaching on the channel. Again, it's a tier 3 sub. Or if you already have something yourself and you just want it optimized, that's a tier 2 sub to the channel. Again, same location, same idea, in the description, in the comment section, or you can just click the join button. All right, but that'll be it for now, folks. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.